When Barron Trump became the target of a joke, Melania's bold move sparked a cultural reckoning the night. It was an ordinary morning when Melania Trump's legal team made a startling announcement that would send shockwaves through the media world. Melania, former First Lady and mother to Barron Trump, had filed a lawsuit against two liberal TV hosts for defamation. The reason? A deeply offensive and insulting comment made about her 15-year-old son, Barron. The incident occurred on a popular late-night talk show, where the two hosts, known for their sharp political satire, joked about Barron's intelligence and appearance. "Isn't it adorable," one of them had said, laughing, "he's just like his father, quiet and in the background, never speaking up. I bet he's learning how to avoid attention already." The other host chimed in, mocking Barron's solemn demeanor with, "Yeah, probably reading books on how to disappear when the cameras are around." The comments, meant as humor, were received differently by Melania. For her, the mocking of her son was not just distasteful, it was an attack on Barron's privacy and dignity. Barron had always been shielded from the public spotlight, and to see him subjected to ridicule without reason or context cut deep. In response, Melania wasted no time in taking legal action. The lawsuit filed in court accused the TV hosts of not only defamation but also causing emotional distress to both her and Barron. She demanded an apology, along with damages for the pain caused by the hosts' careless remarks. The media quickly picked up on the story, and soon, people everywhere were debating the boundaries of comedy in the treatment of public figures' children. While many supported Melania's decision, others criticized her for taking legal action over what they considered a harmless joke. Yet, Melania stood firm. She was not just defending Barron. She was sending a message to the media and public figures everywhere: there was a line, and when it came to children, that line would be respected. As news of Melania's lawsuit spread, the public reaction was swift and intense. Supporters of the Trump family quickly rallied behind her, praising the First Lady for standing up for her son. Social media was flooded with messages of support, with hashtags like #ProtectBarron and #RespectChildren trending nationwide. Many parents and public figures echoed Melania's sentiment, voicing their belief that children should be off-limits when it came to public ridicule, especially when they had no part in their parents' public lives. However, not everyone shared the same view. Critics argued that Melania was overreacting, accusing her of using Barron as a pawn to further her own political agenda. Some even claimed that the lawsuit was just another attempt to silence comedians and limit free speech. But Melania remained undeterred. She knew this wasn't about politics. It was about defending her child, and more importantly, it was about setting a precedent that would protect other children from similar treatment. In the wake of the controversy, the two TV hosts at the center of the lawsuit were left to handle the fallout. Initially, they had brushed off the comments as part of their usual satire, but as the media storm grew, they were forced to issue a public apology. The first host, trying to salvage his image, addressed the situation on air. "I want to sincerely apologize for my remarks about Barron Trump," he said, his voice lacking the usual levity. "What I said was thoughtless, and I deeply regret any harm I caused. I have the utmost respect for Barron and his family, and I realize now that my words were completely inappropriate. I am sorry." Despite the apology, many felt it was too little, too late. The damage had already been done, and the backlash from viewers was substantial. Viewership for the show declined, with many fans condemning the hosts for crossing a line. Even some of their longtime celebrity guests expressed disappointment, distancing themselves from the hosts' actions. Melania, on the other hand, had no intention of letting the matter rest. The apology, while a step in the right direction, was just the beginning. She had always known that real change required more than words, it required action. And she was prepared to see this lawsuit through, no matter the personal or public cost. As the lawsuit continued, the courtroom became the center of a cultural battle. It wasn't just about Melania Trump, Barron, or the late-night host anymore, it had evolved into a referendum on modern entertainment and the ethics of comedy. Public discourse erupted, spilling into every corner of society, from cable news debates to casual conversations in coffee shops. Everyone had an opinion, and the courtroom was now a stage for two conflicting ideologies: the need for accountability and the defense of free speech. Inside the courtroom, Melania's legal team presented a compelling case. They showcased how the joke wasn't just an off-the-cuff remark but a targeted comment aimed at a child who had deliberately been kept out of the spotlight. Witnesses were brought in to testify, including Barron's former teachers, who spoke about how the public scrutiny had affected his confidence and education. They painted a vivid picture of a boy who, despite his family's fame, wanted nothing more than to be treated like any other teenager. "This is not about stifling comedy," Melania's lawyer argued in her closing statements. "This is about drawing a line that separates humor from cruelty, and satire from harm. We all cherish free speech, but with great freedom comes great responsibility. And when words have the power to harm a child, it's our duty to hold people accountable." The defense, however, pushed back with equal fervor. They leaned heavily on the First Amendment, arguing that satire, no matter how offensive, was a cornerstone of democratic society. "Humor has always been a way to challenge power and provoke thought," the defense lawyer declared. "If we start censoring jokes, where do we stop? This case is not just about one joke, it's about the future of creative expression." The courtroom felt like a battlefield, with every argument dissected and debated. Public interest in the case reached a fever pitch, with media outlets devoting hours to coverage. Late-night hosts across the country, including those who had initially supported the defendant, tread carefully, fearing they might be the next target of a similar lawsuit. And then, just as the case seemed to reach a predictable rhythm, a surprise witness emerged. The prosecution introduced William Carter, a former production assistant for the late-night show, whose testimony sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Carter revealed internal communications that exposed the joke about Barron as a calculated move designed to spark controversy and boost ratings. "Controversy sells," one email from the network's executives read, displayed on a large screen for everyone to see. The audience in the courtroom gasped as the implications sank in. The joke wasn't an innocent mistake, it was a deliberate strategy to capitalize on public outrage. The revelation shifted the focus of the trial entirely. What had once been a case about a single joke now exposed the inner workings of a media machine that prioritized profit over ethics. Melania's legal team seized the moment, arguing that this wasn't just about Barron, it was about dismantling a toxic culture that dehumanized individuals for entertainment. Outside the courtroom, the revelation dominated headlines. The network faced immense backlash, with sponsors pulling their advertisements and viewers expressing outrage. The late-night host, once defiant, now seemed isolated, caught in the crossfire of a scandal that went far beyond his original comments. The trial had become more than anyone anticipated. It was no longer just about the Trump family, it was about the soul of modern media and the boundaries of humor in an increasingly polarized world. As the trial unfolded, the bombshell revelations from William Carter's testimony completely altered the case's trajectory. What was initially framed as a dispute between Melania Trump and a late-night host had evolved into a broader indictment of media practices and corporate accountability. The courtroom was abuzz with tension, and the public, captivated by every new twist, eagerly awaited the outcome. The emails Carter had produced painted a damning picture of the network's decision-making process. They revealed that the joke about Barron Trump wasn't spontaneous, it had been meticulously crafted, debated, and ultimately approved by top executives. The documents showed how the network had prioritized shock value and controversy over ethics, explicitly aiming to provoke outrage and drive ratings. One email even stated, "It'll get people talking, and that's what matters." The defense team scrambled to recover, but the damage was done. The network's involvement shifted the narrative entirely. No longer was the trial solely about a comedian's right to free speech, it was now a question of corporate responsibility and the ethics of exploiting individuals, especially children, for profit. Inside the courtroom, Melania's legal team seized the opportunity to drive their point home. "This is not just about a single joke," Melania's attorney declared. "This is about a system that profits from dehumanization. It's about a culture that treats individuals, even children, as pawns in a game for attention and revenue. That has to stop." The defense tried to refocus the case on the importance of satire and creative freedom, arguing that comedy often pushed boundaries to provoke thought and spark conversations. The late-night host, visibly shaken by the trial's developments, took the stand to defend his career and intentions. "I've always used humor to challenge power," he said. "But I never intended to hurt anyone personally, especially a child." While his testimony was heartfelt, it wasn't enough to erase the impact of Carter's revelations. The courtroom, and the public, couldn't ignore the evidence that the joke was a deliberate attempt to generate controversy. The host's defense of free speech rang hollow in the face of corporate emails that prioritized profit over decency. Outside the courthouse, the trial became a lightning rod for cultural debates. Protests erupted on both sides of the issue. Supporters of Melania's lawsuit held signs that read, "Children are not fair game," and "Accountability matters," while advocates for the host and free speech waved banners declaring, "Comedy is not a crime," and "Protect satire." Late-night talk shows across the country avoided addressing the trial altogether, fearing they might inadvertently become the next target of public scrutiny. The ripple effects of the case extended far beyond the courtroom, forcing networks and comedians to reevaluate their approach to humor and controversy. As the trial neared its conclusion, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Melania Trump had already succeeded in exposing the toxic culture within the media industry, but the final verdict would determine whether her fight would lead to tangible change or simply fade into the background of a polarized cultural moment. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was electric as both sides delivered their closing arguments. Melania's lawyer, unwavering in her conviction, implored the jury to consider the broader implications of the case. "This isn't about silencing comedy," she said. "It's about ensuring that our words, amplified to millions, are used responsibly. It's about drawing a line that says children deserve to be protected, not ridiculed." The defense, battered but determined, made one final plea. At its core, comedy challenges norms and provokes thought. If we begin punishing satire, we risk losing one of the most important tools for holding power accountable. Where do we draw the line? The jury now held the future of the case, and its wider implications, in their hands. The world waited with bated breath for the verdict, unaware of the far-reaching impact it would have on comedy, media, and public discourse. The final day of the trial was nothing short of a spectacle. The courtroom was packed to capacity, with journalists jostling for space and cameras capturing every moment outside. Crowds had gathered on the courthouse steps, divided between supporters of Melania Trump and defenders of the late-night host. The atmosphere was charged, and the anticipation was palpable. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned to the courtroom. The judge, seated at the bench, called for silence as the verdict was read. The tension in the room was almost unbearable. "We, the jury, find the defendant liable for defamation," the foreperson declared. Furthermore, the network is found to have acted negligently in fostering a culture that prioritized controversy over ethical standards. Damages are to be awarded to the plaintiff. A collective gasp filled the courtroom. The ruling was a decisive victory for Melania Trump. The late-night host and the network were ordered to pay significant damages, not only for the harm caused to Barron but also for perpetuating a culture that dehumanized individuals for profit. The judge, in her closing remarks, emphasized that the ruling was not an attack on free speech but a recognition of the responsibility that came with having a platform. "This case is a reminder," the judge said, "that humor and satire must have boundaries. When those boundaries are crossed, and harm is caused, accountability is necessary. Children, regardless of their parent status, deserve dignity and respect." Outside the courtroom, the reactions were swift. Supporters of Melania celebrated the ruling as a landmark moment, a stand against the exploitation of individuals in the name of entertainment. Parents across the country hailed her as a role model for standing up for her son, with many sharing their own experiences of protecting their children from bullying and harassment. For the late-night host, the fallout was severe. Sponsors abandoned the show, the network placed it on indefinite hiatus, and the host's public image was irrevocably damaged. While some of his fans defended him, many others felt betrayed by the revelations of calculated exploitation behind the scenes. The once popular figure now faced an uncertain future, isolated from the industry he had once dominated. Melania, however, remained measured in her response. In a brief statement to the press, she expressed her gratitude for the court's decision while reiterating the broader message behind her actions. "This was never about silencing comedy," she said. "It was about standing up for what's right. I hope this case reminds us all of the power of words and the importance of using that power responsibly." The verdict sparked widespread discussions across the media and entertainment industries. Networks began implementing stricter guidelines for their programming, and comedians reevaluated their material, striving to balance humor with sensitivity. The case also led to new conversations about the ethics of targeting public figures' families, particularly children, in public discourse. For Barron, the outcome was a quiet victory. Though he had largely stayed out of the spotlight throughout the trial, his mother's actions spoke volumes about her love and commitment to protecting him. The case was a reminder to him, and to the world, that even in the face of public scrutiny, family came first. In the weeks following the trial, a noticeable shift began to take place. Comedians started exploring more thoughtful and inclusive ways to challenge power and provoke thought without resorting to personal attacks. Networks prioritized fostering ethical work environments, and audiences became more mindful of the content they consumed. The case had set a powerful precedent, one that would shape the media landscape for years to come. But perhaps its greatest legacy was the reminder that words have weight, and with that weight comes responsibility. Melania Trump's fight for her son had become a cultural milestone, teaching the world that even in the face of controversy, dignity and respect should never be compromised. As the dust settled, the world moved forward, carrying with it the lessons learned from the trial. And for Melania and Barron, life continued, bolstered by the knowledge that standing up for what's right could spark change far greater than they had ever imagined.